the hairstylist says that Taylor made a statement saying that she would end it with Dixon, and in order to avoid any repercussion, that she would just say that Dixon forced this situation and that it was a tantamount to sexual assault. People are using what is potentially the wrongdoing of one individual woman to dismantle the cases of every single woman that has been sexually assaulted, every single woman that works in the office place. Yeah, like it's going past the sexual assault situation. It's now going past, especially given Joy Taylor's outspokenness about women in the workplace. It's going to now the well, maybe these women is really sleeping their way to the top kind of shit. Look at what Joy Taylor did in this situation. Like it has just. I don't know what I thought. I guess maybe I more so hoped that we had got to a point where we could have more nuanced conversations about this, because
it's a red flag.
Look, most of the people say, look, they took the Shannon Sharpe approach and said that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Pretty much. Well,
I mean, Shannon Sharpe also just wasn't named in that suit, so it literally didn't have anything to do with him.
That part, I mean, exactly.
People tried to bring it into like fucking. What's the snatch guy? Jason Whitlock is the first person I saw from a media perspective to be like, you know who really won in this shit? Shannon Sharpe. And then like Shannon responded to that, and then Whitlock replied to Shannon's response, basically saying that of the stuff that was happening at Fox while both of them were there, that Shannon Sharpe was one of the people who was more likely to be flirtatious, more likely to push boundaries
relative to Skip.
Yeah, with female coworkers. He said Shannon Sharpe was one of the people that was most likely to perpetuate that. But again, Shannon Sharpe hasn't been named in any suit, and nobody's even come forward to insinuate that other than Jason Whitlock, since Jason Whitlock started down that path.
All right, so we're getting into this Joy Taylor suit against, if I'm right, Fox as a company, Skip Bayless, and Emmanuel Acho
and Dixon, and there's another nigga in here too.
Okay,
Bobby.
Oh, wait, sorry. It's not. It's Joy Taylor is one of the accused. Sorry. She's one of the accused. My fault.
Yeah, she is biggest backlash. And that one.
So the suit is from a stylist against Joy Taylor, Skip Bayless, the other dude,
Fox
and Fox.
It's Fox Sports, but it's not. It's not even the suit. What I've read from it, the suit isn't against Joy Taylor.
It's not.
This shit is just the shit that like her naming Joy Taylor in this was just her getting her get back at Joy Taylor, because Joy Taylor was extremely insensitive to her plight and the things that were going on while she was working at Fox, because Joy Taylor was like, man, get over it. Like, this is the environment that we live in. That's basically the overall stance.
You just let that sexual harassment like ride.
Yeah,
which is what Joy Taylor is alleged to have done.
Yeah, there are people mentioned in the suit that had nothing to do with anything. Colin Cowherd is mentioned during a stretch of the narrative portion of the suit, and it was basically just to say, oh yeah, and by the way, Colin was like a consummate professional the entire time, and I enjoyed working with. Like, it was stuff, you know what I mean? Like,
why don't we have good suits? Like, why don't nobody
I know, right?
Why on some
sue
shit?
somebody for being great? Like,
right? Like, yo, this motherfucker is a fucking pleasure to be around. I would like to sue him such that I pay him $10,000 just because how nice he was. Yeah, reverse lawsuit. Why don't we have that? I feel like that's everything's so negative. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. True that. But goddamn,
we don't reward nothing. You know.
This is a serious topic, but nah.
Oh, my fault.
No. I mean, come on now. This is me we're dealing with. But
like,
no, you that shit that you said. She too skinny. That shit was crazy.
That was wild. I'm gonna say this though. Keeping us on topic with this one, man. I think this motherfucker Skip did it, man. I think this motherfucker Skip did it.
1.5 million.
Probabilities. I agree.
No. Okay, so like even the optics of how he's moving post that suit, like, crazy. So for those who follow Skip, like, you know, his wife's name is Ernestine. He mentions his wife all the time. Mm-hmm. I have seen this woman, like pictures of this woman, like one time. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, this shit comes out, and this motherfucker got her on the show all the time and shit. Now this motherfucker parading her around. He's he's on his "Ooh, I love my wife" like error, like kind of shit now. Mm-hmm. Like post this.
Can I ask, if he didn't do it, what behavior would you expect?
Business as usual.
Really? Okay, fair enough. Yeah. All right. Cool. He wouldn't be trying to like, create a narrative to preemptively, show himself as a good guy. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like a PR move from a guy who is notoriously about negative publicity, right? Like Skip Bayless's whole thing is I'm going to say the shock value thing. I'm going to have the hot take, and that's going to make me a media lightning rod, and that is how I've made my place in sports media. So for him to try to spin a more positive narrative in regards to this situation is really weird to me. So like when this motherfucker has fucking Ernestine on the show after like I've been there was a point where I watched every episode of First Take for like a 3-year period. And
you never seen this lady?
Never seen this lady.
Okay, yeah.
Keep me honest in the comments, man. I don't know who else was like checking to see like if Ernestine was on there during that whole stretch, but like
yeah, she was running the camera at one point.
Yeah, and again, Skip was also extremely powerful, not only at First Take but also during like the the Fox Sports 1 era of that. He was like the marquee talent. He could have did whatever he wanted. And I also think that given the fact that he was the marquee talent, I wonder if Fox saw this coming. I wonder if Fox already knew that this was something that was going to happen. So that's why this contract ending and him going, at least in current state, independent was preempted by the fact that they knew about this internally and wanted to do damage control for their brand themselves.
As in like distance a bit from Skip.
Yep.
Knowing that he was going to have a weird case at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because so like it seems like she is alleging, and I pretty much believe whether or not the 1.5 specifically is true, this suit seems so specific that I'm like, if even half of this shit is true, there's a problem. And Fox intentionally suppressed, didn't give a fuck about, and didn't care to know about one of their employees being consistently sexually harassed and pressured. And I can't imagine a version of this story where a significant amount of that isn't the case.
I agree. Yeah. And I also think that there's a lot of discourse around this lawsuit that I think lacks the nuance, and I think a lot of people are using this as the springboard to get their shots off on their misogynistic views. But
100%. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Before we get into that specific thing, I do hate that a lot of people came out and said, well, the Skip I knew wouldn't have done that. I'm like, yeah, man, what does that matter, man?
You don't know.
What does that matter? You don't know everything about every nigga's life. Like, just because you hung out with him a little bit, just because y'all worked together, just because you did this and you never saw that, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's such a derailing aspect of that conversation that I don't think you should do it. And
I think if you know somebody enough, it makes sense. But most of these don't. But if you know somebody, that's a fair thing to say.
I think if you know somebody, like maybe on a case by case ad hoc basis. If you're just like, I worked with this person for 10 years, and like we did a show together and we had lunch together. I never saw that. I don't think that's him. Like, what does that add to the conversation? And I'm thinking specifically about how Stephen A. Smith approached the conversation. So I do think that Stephen A. Smith had to say something because they worked together for so long, because their brands are so tied to each other.
Chunks didn't say shit about Philly.
That's fair. But I do think that at minimum, him saying like, well, that's not the Skip I know, effectively derails conversation.
Yes. I'm with Eddie on that one. Yeah. I'm with Eddie on that one.
What else are you supposed to say?
I mean,
nothing.
If you genuinely,
to your point, Eddie, nothing.
No, that's not
nothing. Yeah, sure.
Let me get my shit off. Let me get my shit off. Agree. Because because niggas was looking for Shannon Sharpe to say something. He had nothing to do with that. Was not named in it. So why wouldn't Stephen A. Smith say something or speak on it? Because I get it. Like, it doesn't add anything to the conversation. But the thing is, well, actually it does, but just maybe not in the point or frame of reference that we would like to be added to the conversation, because it's taking away credit from the victim in this situation. Now, if that's Stephen A. Smith's true remembrance of Skip Bayless, thank you so much. A recollection of Skip Bayless from his own. I don't know him to be that type of dude. Like 1.5, like I really haven't seen him do like no crazy shit like that. Like I don't know like him to be that type of person. He ain't saying this motherfucker's lying. I don't understand like why we just like, you should just not say anything if you can't.
I think he.
I think I'm maybe between these.
Saying if you cannot say that this man did something to this woman, then you shouldn't say shit at all.
So that's not what I'm saying. What I actually said was I think Stephen A should say something, and I say it because their brands are so intertwined. I think that he could have said something. I was when I said he could have said nothing, that was to Eddie's point, right? He could have said nothing instead of derailing the conversation. So if I'm putting stuff in hierarchy, I think that saying nothing is better than saying something that I think derails conversation. Now, the way that I think that he should have handled that conversation, as a person who does think that, again, because their brands are what they are tied at the hip for as long as they do sports media. He could have simply said, "I didn't see that," and let it go. He didn't have to give this character witness sort of testimony on his Stephen A. Smith show about, what he believes to be Skip's character, what he believes to be Skip's habits, how he feels that that's antithetical to how those kind of go. He didn't have to do any of that. He could have literally said, "I've worked with this man for a long time. I didn't see that. Let's let the system play how the system plays out." And I think that would have been much more palatable than, again, playing character witness for Skip Bayless in this circumstance.
I think I'm somewhere in between those because as both of y'all did your points, I was like, I don't know, and then Alvin said the opposite, and I was like, still don't know. I feel like there's a big difference between saying, and this is to Josh's point, there's a big difference, or in addressing Josh's point, there's a big difference between saying, "Hey, I didn't see it, I can't comment on it," and "I don't know him to do that," because that's basically saying I believe him to be. I'm leaning in the direction of him being innocent. That's a character statement. And I don't know that that's appropriate in all situations, especially if you have a limited, and this is often the case in these situations, if you have a limited exposure to someone. If you see someone just in the carriage of you all's job, and I don't know what their relationship is, so I'll address that part as well. But if you go, look, I work with this person 9 to 5, and they killed somebody at 6 o'clock. I never seen them do no shit like that. Your understanding of them as a person is limited. So I think it's not relevant unless you've specifically seen them in situations where it would be likely for them to do the bad behavior, or you've seen them do the opposite. Then I think it makes more sense to jump into it.
The opposite of killing somebody.
Yeah, brought somebody back to life. You know what I'm saying? If you see them do something like that, you know what I mean? See them hop from the fucking rooftops and save a purse snatcher or whatever. Then you'd be like, Bruce Wayne would never do no shit like that. But I think if you don't have that, then you probably shouldn't present the absence of evidence as the evidence of absence. And I feel like that's what my disagreement with Josh. But my disagreement with Alvin is like, if y'all are close, and again, I don't really know either Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless. If y'all are close and homies and friends, and y'all have had a private off-air conversation, and Skip is saying to Stephen, "Bro, I did not fucking do this shit. You don't know me. Here, I've told you, I can't say this in court yet, but this situation, and it's been addressed." You as a person make a executive decision in yourself and go, "Okay, cool, I'm gonna make a public statement." And I feel like that is not unreasonable. Again, I'm putting a whole bunch of caveats and background shit to that, but I'm totally fine with somebody going, fuck what the law is saying. This is a person I'm close to. We've had a personal conversation. I'm going to speak up in defense of them. I'm not like, I think that's of good character, but I don't know if that's this case. But in that situation, I commend that. Again, I don't know if that's this case. I don't know these niggas. I don't know nothing about them.
And mind you, and I'll clean my shit up because I could probably spoke a little out of turn because I have not seen what Stephen A. Smith said. It was just like how Alvin said it and presented. I might have like missed something when you were actually speaking, my brother. I was just saying because I was just thinking like, okay, well, what's wrong with him? With if it were like me versus like one of y'all. And like the shit hit the fan, and I don't know either one of you brothers to be fucked up individuals that would do any woman any harm intentionally. And then it's like, well, shit, I really don't know them to be that person. What's wrong? What's wrong with saying that? But I get what Alvin is saying. Like we can just end it there, but you don't have to do like a whole character thing. But it just kind of gets to a point where it's like, okay, well, if you don't have evidence to show why the alleged victim is correct, and move the conversation in the victim's favor, which if they're a victim, they're a victim. I'm all for it. I might be getting my words messed up a little bit, but I just like in this situation, and mind you, I do believe I would not be surprised if Skip actually did do that shit that was in that thing. It's just at 1.5. I'm like, nah, that nigga wasn't gonna give her 1.5 million. Even
we should
if he
definitely
did
talk about that because that one's what's going on.
He's worth 17 million. He's worth 17 million.
Nigga, if you worth 17 million, you gonna give 1.5 of that 17.
That's 1/17.
Some vagina.
Hell no.
Nigga said that's 1/17.
That's 1/17 of your wealth, dog.
What?
I don't think. Yeah, I'm not. But look, I mean, you actually said it in a way that made it click for me. He just said he was going to give 1.5 million. He didn't write a check or nothing. Yeah. So now that you frame it that way, that completely changes my mind. Because before I was like, nah, that's crazy. Who would do that? But then it's like, but who would say that? Anybody could say that.
Yeah. Skip Bayless would definitely say it.
It's nothing. Yeah, it don't cost nothing.
1.5 right now.
Yeah,
I'm Skip Bayless. He's Skip Bayless.
Write the check right now. Nobody writes checks anymore at all. But he's like, I'll do it.
Life with 1.5, bro. You can go to Dominican Republic and fuck the entire
and just live
and have 1.4 million out of that 1.5 left over. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Okay. How much time we got, if any, Eddie? Buddy?
We can finish this topic out to its conclusion. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then my second thing, because I did say I had a couple things. The way in which, so to give the listeners the full scope of it, there is a lot in this lawsuit detailing Joy Taylor's
complicitness,
inter office relationships, right?
Oh,
yeah. One the most prominent of which would be I forget, like some executive VP, I want to say Charlie Dixon, that she was having an affair with. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people are focusing on is the hairstylist says that Taylor made a statement saying that she would end it with Dixon, and in order to avoid any repercussion, that she would just say that Dixon forced this situation and that it was a tantamount to sexual assault. The conversations that niggas are having around this is the same conversations that I think that we rally against all the time. We've all spoken out against this from this perspective, that people are using what is potentially the wrongdoing of one individual woman to dismantle the cases of every single woman that has been sexually assaulted, every single woman that works in the office place. Yeah, like it's going past the sexual assault situation. It's now going past, especially given Joy Taylor's outspokenness about women in the workplace. It's going to now the well, maybe these women is really sleeping their way to the top kind of shit. Look at what Joy Taylor did in this situation. Like, it has just derailed a lot of conversation around how we handle discussing victims in the media, how we discuss women trying to break down glass ceilings in the office place. And I think that it's just so fucking tired. I thought that I don't know what I thought. I guess maybe I more so hoped that we had got to a point where we could have more nuanced conversations about this, because if what Joy Taylor is accused of is true, it is extremely fucking heinous. Like, can you imagine how this would like ruin like this man's life? You know, he has a family. I think he has a wife. I think that's why the affair was such an illicit thing.
Falsely accusing thing.
Yeah. So assuming that is true, like that would be like a thing. But again, like using this as a possible, a very possible thing as a springboard to dismantle how we discuss like victims, how we dismantle the work that women do in the workplace, I think is just been the absolute worst part of this shit.
Always looking for a unicorn to be like, oh, here's a woman she's actually the problem. Is the Amber Heard, like all of that. Like there's always like, oh, see this one example, women are just as bad as men. Matter of fact, really, all of this rape and domestic abuse and shit, it's all women. It's either made up or they're the one doing the crimes. It's kind of what happens every news cycle. There's one of these situations, and I don't know why you hoped or thought or anything other than
online.
I hope a lot of things, man. You gotta have hope to get you through today.
News cycle, fair enough. You gotta laugh at it, otherwise you cry. But I feel like there hasn't been a single news cycle where there hasn't been a strong. I mean, fuck the fucking Meg and Tory shit was that too. Like there hasn't been a single story like this that has any component where a woman might have done anything wrong that doesn't get turned into, see, women are the problem. All of this, like misogyny doesn't exist, patriarchy, all of this shit doesn't really exist. It's just women are the problem. Happens every single situation. That said, and I don't want to clit ride too hard because I don't know any of these people, and I agree with you. If what was said and was the intention that is heinous on Joy Taylor's part,
that's fucking heinous.
I guess Say again.
I said that's fucking heinous. Not to cut you off, but that's heinous. And like, it's not like a nigga. It's not a Twitter nigga didn't accuse her of these allegations. Another woman that worked with her accused her of these allegations. That's how she.
And again, I'm trying to clear right here. The only bit of this isn't even this is like a taking into account that just because somebody said a situation doesn't mean that that's the entirety of the thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a little bit of context that should be added in some of these where it's like, if there is a woman in a situation who feels like her best way to make it forward is to agree to some shit, sometimes there are power dynamics in place that after the fact you can retcon it to be like, oh, she slept her way to the top. But how do I put this? It's women who said yes to Harvey Weinstein. That don't make Harvey Weinstein not that. And
it's
so
the power dynamic
you can look at some of the women who said yes and be like, oh, she strategically slept her way to the top to get this role and succeed and stuff. So, and I'm not saying that this is the case in this situation, but the fact that Joy Taylor did have a relationship that was ongoing with someone doesn't by itself necessarily 100% mean that it wasn't somewhat coerced, because maybe when Skip came to her and said 1.5, she was like, bet. Does that make it not wrong that Skip asked? Is it only wrong retroactively based on whether or not the woman agrees to this coercion? You know what I'm saying?
Your point stands, but those are two different women. Joy Taylor was a co-host. If I was following you correctly, you was talking.
Yeah. I had the same thought. Yeah.
I don't know anybody's names. What did I say?
Joy Taylor is a co-host. Like, she's talent, on air talent. She is not being sued against. She just had a spot blown up for allegedly cheating on her then husband with Dixon, who was the head of content, and then she also was allegedly sleeping with her other co-host, something Acho. And then Emmanuel, what you said was Skip offered Joy Taylor $1.5 million.
Oh, no. I understood those were two different people, and I just make the sentence make sense. I knew that didn't happen, but sorry. I just
antecedents were off. Yeah, antecedents were off.
Yeah. But like, I should have said Dixon or Acho, or maybe not. Well, I don't know. But like, let's say Dixon offered her something and she said, yeah, that's kind of, I'm not saying that's true, but I'm just saying that's a thing that should be.
No, I get what you're saying.
This whole thing.
I get what you're saying. It's like she could have very well been a victim of a power dynamic in that particular thing. And it mentioned in the lawsuit that she became powerful, right? That she was gaining power. So like, as she had her status elevated within the company, now maybe she viewed that as the time to speak out about the power dynamic that was used to abuse her in that specific case. And it was, and how it was portrayed in the lawsuit could be a bastardization of how that played out. So I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I think that that's equally as likely as anything else, at minimum, probably more likely. But I also just want to highlight the fact that my particular sticking point is just how niggas have been having the conversation surrounding this. Come on, man.
I mean, like,
for the love of God, do better. Do better, man. Yeah. Like, goddamn. Like, for the love of God. But
the more conversations I had with men and just like men in general, like when we start having like deep conversations, you turn the wrong corner with a nigga.
And why are we going so fast?
It's just like, what? Because I mean, bro,
wait, are we wrong?
No. I've had that moment so many times at fucking barbershops where like we be having like regular fucking conversations and then somebody say some shit like, yeah, man, Trump really gonna say the country, and I'm like, God damn, man, this nigga got the clippers on. It'd be shit like that, and I'd be like,
nigga, oh shit, I'm like the closet Trump supporter.
I can't say nothing right now. It's a power dynamic.
He
holding my hairline hostage.
Yeah,
maybe these women do be on some fuck shit when they be talking about it. I'm like, oh goddamn, like what the fuck, man.
Alvin got to be like,
I'm all for having nuanced conversations, but like, man, bro, like the level of which the misogyny is so deeply entrenched is unfathomable. And I get like women like, oh yeah, now you're finally seeing it. Like, ladies, I get it, like, you know what I'm saying, but it's just like when you talking to certain niggas, like it's like, God damn, because a lot of times you be thinking to yourself, who is these niggas when you hear these stories? But it's your neighbor. Niggas might be your friend. Niggas might be the nigga that cuts your hair.
That's facts, and all of them could be waving a red flag. But at the same time, if you find yourself enthralled in a battle of he said, she said with Ryan Reynolds' wife, you could be seeing a red flag. It's to be determined. We got to find out once we get to these court cases. It's been waving a red flag. It's been your boy Eddie. It's been Josh. It's been Alvin. We'll see y'all next week, as always, for the bullshit and the banter. Join us on Spotify, YouTube, Patreon if you want bonus content, discounts, access to the Discord. Like and subscribe, and let us know what y'all think in the comments, baby. We love y'all. We'll see you next week. Stay strong. Peace, peace, peace.
It's a red flag.